I recently thrifted this dress. The brand is Spell, S-P-E-L-L. Here's some pictures of it. And I fell in love with the dress. The only thing is the fit was a little weird, but the good thing is I can alter clothing. So I figured out what was wrong. The neckline was just low and sloppy looking. Here I am. I'm gonna fix this by pulling up the shoulders and doing an adjustment. It's a little difficult to pull up the shoulders like this by yourself, but through some just tries and retries, I eventually got it to where I wanted it. I didn't want it too high because then that kind of makes it uncomfortable. So I had to find like a good middle ground. Here are those two shoulders side by side. You can see the amount that is taken out. It is slightly different. On this side, it's 1 inch, which is going to equal 2 inches total taken off. The other side is almost 1 inch. And that's just usually asymmetry in how our bodies are, and that's perfectly okay. I just roll with it. The interesting thing about this dress, and I think one of the big reasons why the neckline was so slouchy, is this line here for the front of the bodice is so long. The shoulder seam actually extended and went to the back of me, like to the back of my shoulders. Instead of taking 1 inch from each side equally, each side of the seam, I'm just going to take everything out of the front panel. And since this dress is lined, it's double the work. So we're messing with 4 layers. The first step, I'm going to take this top stitching and get it out of the way because it is in the way of the seams that we have to access from the inside. So remove that. Also, on the seam attaching the sleeve to the shoulder, you have to remove all that stitching from around the seams. Start opening up the shoulder, so get the sleeve away from that shoulder. See the big hole right there from that, and then you get those layers opened up. This is the inside of the shoulder. You can see the lining and the main fabric. On the shoulder of the front bodice, I'm gonna mark 2 inches down, and this is the most that I'm taking out. It's gonna be that 2 inches is coming from the inside seam that's closest to the neck, and then on the outside towards the shoulder, I'm gonna take less, just because when I tried to pull up equal amounts on each side, it made the shoulder seam uncomfortable because it was a little too small. It was mainly the inner neckline that just needed the most out of it and was going to fix the problem. Now I'm opening up the shoulder seam. You wouldn't have to do this if you were taking from each panel from each side, but since I'm taking only from one side, I do have to open it up because I'm going to be shifting the front panel. So the front side of the shoulder, I'm going to be shifting it up by 2 inches and then reattaching it to that back panel seam again. And yeah, here's the line of the front panel, and that's the line, the new stitch line that I'm going to match to the back layer. And the back layer, I'm going to take that old seam line, so that original seam line for the back layer, and match that to the new seam line that I drew on the front layer, and then pin that. It is a little finicky. This fabric is slippery, so I just take my time and go back and forth and try to make sure it's as straight as possible. This is after I sewed it together, and you can see it's not perfect. It did shift a little bit. This is for myself, it's not for a client, so I'm just gonna let it go and just gonna trim off that extra seam allowance. And then after I do both sides and press it, here are the results. And now I just have to reattach everything back together. First, I start with the seam that is on the closest to the neck, so that inner seam line. I'm gonna reattach that. Here it is. I'm just gonna smooth it out so you can see. This is what I'm reattaching. I'm gonna pull out and expose the old seam line because it's really important you have that accessible, because you have to, when you restitch that, you have to join the new seam line to that original seam line and make sure it's like a complete smooth line all the way through. And here's the finished seam. You can see that extra kind of thick back stitching where the seam joined up into that original old seam. This is the outside of it once it's turned right side out, and now I just have to redo that top stitching that we took out at the very beginning. And here it is, all redone. And finally, I have to reattach the sleeve back to the shoulder seam. A really important part here is because you still have the same amount of sleeve left, all you did was change that strap part. So you're gonna have extra sleeve, so you just have to redo either make a completely new pleat. This dress already had pleats in it, so I just deepened some of the pleats. Then redoing that serged edge. I did end up taking out a little section because one of the pleats, it was not fully into the seam. There was raw fabric poking out. So that's another thing, just make sure everything's in the seam, there's no raw edges showing. And here's the completed results. It fit just way smoother and my bra's not showing anymore. I thrift a lot of my wardrobe, and because of the randomness of thrifting, you'll find some really good pieces, but they just will fit not quite right. But because I know alterations, I can take those amazing pieces home and make them work for my body. Thanks, and see you next time.